Welcome back to the attic. We've got UFC Fight Night Nashville coming up this weekend, but first we've got a couple of weeks to go over for the bankroll recap. 2 weeks ago, we started off with the PFL World Tournament. We went 4 for 7 on that card and returned 0.4 units of profit. The next day, we had UFC 317. We went 7 for 11 on that card and returned 4.34 units of profit. We rounded out the weekend with a weekly bonus, which gave us a free 1.13 units. That was a pretty good weekend overall, increasing our bankroll by nearly 6%. There was no UFC card this past weekend, but that doesn't mean we didn't make any bets. Friday afternoon started with PFL Mana. We had 3 bets on that card and were correct on all 3 of them for a return of 4.33 units. Later that night, we had PFL Europe, where things went the complete opposite direction. We lost every wager on this card, which I don't believe has ever happened before, and ended up losing 4.7 units. Fortunately, it's a new month, so we also got a 1.02 unit monthly bonus, alongside a 0.79 unit weekly bonus. I do have to bet a massive amount of the bankroll every week to make these bonuses worth it, but in a case like this, it really shows. It turned a losing week into a profit of more than 1 unit. That's it for the recap, so let's get right into UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Teixeira. We'll be starting off the night in the women's strawweight division with a bout between Melissa Martinez and Fatima Klein. These two have pretty similar records, but I do like to see a high number of finishes, which is pretty rare in the strawweight division. They're both 1-1 in the UFC, coming off of a win, but each suffered a decision loss in their UFC debut. Despite the similarities, Fatima Klein is a massive minus 1,400 favorite at the books, and 2 of the 3 models are leaning her direction. It is notable that none of the models are super convinced here, but I will still be placing 14 units on Fatima Klein. Our second fight is a lightweight matchup between Mitch Ramirez and Mike Davis. Both of these guys are very tall and long for this division, but as you can see, attributes just don't contribute much to the overall decision. Mike is a bit more experienced, but in general, their finish rate seems very similar. Unfortunately for Mitch, his chances of getting finished do seem to be much higher. For the most part, the models handily disagree with the books here. Mitch is a plus 600 at the books, but 2 of 3 models give him higher than a 60% chance of victory. His recent move back down to 155 may be skewing the models, but either way, I'll be betting 1.5 units on Mitch Ramirez. Next up, we've got the first heavyweight fight of the night between Kennedy Nzechukwu and Walter Walker. This will be Kennedy's 3rd fight at heavyweight in the UFC, and he's looked pretty good since moving up. He's on a 2-fight first-round KO streak, and he looks very fast for the division. But Walker's no joke here. He's also on a 2-fight winning streak in the UFC with 2 first-round finishes, both of them by heel hook. Kennedy has only been subbed once in his career. It was back in 2019 versus Paul Craig, but he has been finished on a couple of other occasions since then, and Walker's no stranger to a KO. I do like betting Walter Walker as an underdog here, but I really don't make any decisions. I'm putting 1.5 units on him at plus 180 because the models tell me to. Moving all the way down to women's flyweight, where Eduarda Moura will take on Lauren Murphy. Eduarda does seem to have the advantage in almost every aspect of this fight, including being 10 years younger. Lauren does have quite a bit more experience with nearly twice as many fights, but the models don't take that into account very much at only about 2%. Maybe it's just a bias, but I feel like a veteran fighter like Lauren Murphy is very prone to win an upset here. But that won't stop me from betting Eduarda. All 3 versions of the model have her as a pretty substantial favorite here, so it'll cost me 10.5 units. Moving on to a welterweight bout between Jake Matthews and Chidi Njokuani. Jake will be 30 at the time of fight, Chidi 6 years older at 36, which some might consider to be the upper bound of prime at welterweight. Despite that, he will have a 4-inch advantage in height, as well as an incredible 7-inch reach advantage. He also has quite a bit more experience as a pro, but Jake Matthews has 21 UFC fights, where Chidi only has 8. Jake is a small plus 130 underdog at the books, but 2 out of the 3 models think that he's more likely to win. I've placed a 1-unit wager on Jake Matthews. Sticking around at welterweight, we'll see Chris Curtis take on Max Griffin in the next bout. Again, we see a fighter with a lot more experience, this time Chris Curtis, who also has spent less time with less fights in the UFC. Although in this case, I'm not sure it makes as big of a difference because both of these guys are 50-50 fighters in the promotion anyway. At the books, Chris was a minus 305 favorite, and all 3 versions of the model like him to win this fight, so I risked 4.57 units on it. Opening the main card, we've got a light heavyweight matchup between Tuco Tacos and Junior Tafa. Tuco is currently 0-2 in the UFC and most likely on the last fight of his contract. Junior Tafa has gone 2-3 in the promotion so far, but is looking to make a resurgence by dropping down to light heavyweight for the first time since his MMA debut. I'm not sure how these things affect the models, but I sure hope that Tuco performs well under pressure. 2 out of 3 models like him as a plus 145 underdog, so I placed 1 unit on Tuco Tacos to win this fight. Moving up for a heavyweight fight, this one between Austin Lane and Vitor Petrino. Austin Lane just seems to be the guy that the UFC brought in to get knocked out by heavyweights. 3 of his last 4 fights were KO losses, and the one that he did win was against Robelis de Spain, and I'm betting that Dana was hoping for another KO loss. Overall, Petrino's record looks really good, but his 2 losses came in his last 2 fights. It looks like he might be trying to revamp his career with a move up to heavyweight, and all the numbers seem to indicate that he'll get it done. At the books, he's a minus 700 favorite, and all 3 models are generating some quite high numbers for his probability to win. This wager cost me 10.5 units on Vitor Petrino to return 1.5 units with a win. The next fight is a featherweight matchup between Nate Landwehr and Morgan Charrier. Man, I hope this fight lives up to everything it promises. Both of these dudes are known for putting on exciting fights, great finishes, and earning bonuses. I'm giving everything here a thorough evaluation, and I cannot see how 2 out of 3 models have Landwehr with an advantage here. He's significantly older. He does have height and reach, but the models don't care about that. He's got less experience. They're both pretty much 50-50 in major organizations. He gets finished way more often. I just don't see it. I'm not sure where it's getting it from, but I am taking Landwehr here for 1 unit as a plus 215 underdog. We'll be staying at featherweight for the feature bout between Steve Garcia and Calvin Kattar. Steve Garcia is on an absolute tear right now. He's currently riding a 5-fight win streak, with all 5 of those being stopped in the first 2 rounds. Calvin's in nearly the opposite boat. He's on a 4-fight losing streak, although he has survived nearly all of those to a decision. At the books, Steve's a minus 120 favorite, and the models are at least that confident. I bet Steve Garcia for 1.8 units. Our co-main event takes place at welterweight between Stephen Thompson and Gabriel Bonfim. Wonderboy is 42, he's lost 4 of his last 5 fights, and he was finished in his last 2 outings. I know that's not a guaranteed loss, but it sure doesn't look good. Bonfim is much younger at only 27. He only has 1 professional loss, and since then he's recovered with a 2-fight win streak, finishing his last fight in the 2nd round. At the books, Gabriel is a minus 385 favorite, and all three models agree, based very heavily on the results of his past fights. This wager on Bonfim cost me 5.77 units. Finally, we get to the main event, which is a heavyweight bout between Derek Lewis and Taliesin Teixeira. Derek Lewis is 40 now, and unfortunately, in recent years, his career has seemed to fall off a little bit. He's gone 5-3 in his last 8 bouts, and only one of those has made it to the judges. Teixeira is a very large man with a very scary record. He's 6'7", and he'll also have a 4-inch reach advantage. He's 8-0 as a professional, with all 8 of them by finish in the first round. You can never sleep on the Black Beast, though. Derek Lewis has 23 professional knockouts. I believe he still has the most knockouts in the UFC. And this dude could put you away at any point in the fight, regardless of how tired he looks. At the books, Taliesin is a minus 260 favorite, and all 3 models are leaning very significantly his direction. I have wagered on Taliesin in this fight, although I am a big Derek Lewis fan, so I would really love to see him win. That's all the fights on this card, and the totals look something like this. We bet on 7 favorites, 6 of them the models we're confident in. Our total risk was 51 units for a potential 10-unit profit. We also bet on 5 underdogs, only 2 of those confident. Total risk there is very low at only 6 units, and 1 big underdog brings us to a total potential profit of 16.6 units. Total risk on this card comes out to 57 units, and our max profit would be 26.6 units. That's it for UFC Nashville. We do have LFA 212 and One Fight Night 33 coming up. I'll be running predictions for those shortly, and I'll be posting all the results on Patreon as soon as I have live lines at the books.